The Jordan River is of symbolic and spiritual significance to many, since the Bible says this is where Jesus was baptized.
What happens when the most sacred river on earth begins to die? The Jordan River is drying up. Fish are floating dead in its waters. 2,000 years ago, prophets warned about this exact sign. Could we be witnessing biblical prophecy unfolding before our eyes? Local residents can barely believe their eyes. "I just came by this morning and saw the fish floating down," reports one witness near Thanksgiving Park. The smell hits you first, then you see them. Dozens of dead fish drifting silently in waters that once baptized kings. One person walking the shoreline counted hundreds in just a small section. "We got further up the river and there's like clumps of just gross fish. It smells terrible." The dead zone stretches for miles. What was once clear, flowing water now carries messengers of death. But here's what makes this different from any other environmental disaster. This isn't just any river. This is the Jordan. The same waters that parted for Joshua, the same stream that witnessed Jesus rise from baptism while heaven opened above. Could these floating fish be carrying a message we're not ready to hear? For 4,000 years, the Jordan has been God's highway of miracles. When the Israelites stood trembling after 40 years in the desert, this river stopped flowing. The waters piled up like walls. Millions walked across on dry ground into the promised land. The prophet Elijah struck these waters with his cloak. They split in two. When Elisha inherited that same cloak, the Jordan obeyed him too. Kings traveled here to be healed. Armies were defeated on its banks. Heaven itself opened when John baptized Jesus in these very waters. This river has seen more miracles than anywhere else on earth. It carried the hopes of nations. It witnessed the voice of God declaring, "This is my beloved Son." For generations, pilgrims came here expecting the impossible to happen. Every drop of this water holds sacred memory. Every bend in its path tells of divine intervention. When God wanted to show his power, he chose the Jordan. When he wanted to mark new beginnings, he used these flowing waters. But what happens when the river of miracles starts dying? Today's Jordan tells a very different story. Where fish once swam in abundance, death now floats on the surface. Where pilgrims once found life-giving waters, many sections have shrunk to muddy streams barely knee-deep. The river that once roared with divine power now whispers with weakness. Concrete banks hold back what little flow remains. Sewage pipes dump waste into sacred waters. The smell of decay hangs in the air where heaven once touched earth. Farmers have drained it, cities have polluted it. What took God seconds to miracle into existence, mankind has spent decades destroying. The Jordan that once supported entire civilizations now struggles to support basic life. Dead fish don't lie. They're messengers floating on the surface of our neglect. Each lifeless body tells the story of a river pushed beyond its limits. But could there be more to this story than human failure? Scientists have explanations. Pollution from agriculture, sewage overflow, chemical runoff, climate change, overuse of water resources. The Jordan is being killed by 1,000 cuts of human activity. These explanations make perfect sense. Rivers die when we dump too much waste into them. Fish suffocate when oxygen levels drop. This is basic environmental science playing out in real time. But prophecy often works through natural events. God doesn't always send fire from heaven. Sometimes he removes his protection and lets nature respond to spiritual conditions. Sometimes judgment comes through drought, through pollution, through death in the waters. What looks like environmental disaster to scientists might look very different to those who study ancient warnings, because the Bible specifically warned about dying fish in sacred waters. The prophet Hosea saw this day coming. The land mourns, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field, the birds in the sky, and the fish in the sea are dying. He wasn't describing a nature documentary. He was warning about judgment. When corruption fills the land, even creation itself responds. The fish don't just die randomly. They die as witnesses to spiritual decay. Hosea connected dying fish directly to humanity's relationship with God. But there's another side to this prophecy. Ezekiel saw healing waters flowing from God's temple in Jerusalem. In his vision, these life-giving streams flowed toward the Dead Sea. Where the river flows, everything will live. There will be large numbers of fish. Two competing visions. Hosea's warning of death in the waters when people turn from God. Ezekiel's promise of supernatural life when God restores his people. The Jordan River sits between these two prophetic poles. In Revelation, John saw something even more dramatic. Waters turning to blood, sea creatures dying as part of God's final judgment on earth. He described it as one of the signs that the end of this age was approaching. Could the Jordan's dying fish be an early preview of these final warnings? The Jordan isn't the only water system showing signs of distress. Massive fish kills have been reported worldwide. The Oder River in Europe lost thousands of fish overnight. Rivers in China have turned red. Ocean temperatures are rising beyond what marine life can survive. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a global pattern that's accelerating. What once happened rarely now happens regularly. Fish kills that used to shock the world barely make local news anymore. We're becoming numb to nature's warning signs. But the Jordan is different. This isn't just any environmental disaster. This is happening to the most spiritually significant river in human history. When signs appear here, they carry weight beyond normal environmental events. Jesus told his disciples to watch for signs in the natural world. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity. He connected cosmic events with earthly warnings. The signs are accelerating. The patterns are becoming impossible to ignore, and they're all pointing toward the same conclusion. The Apostle Paul wrote that all creation groans like a woman in labor, waiting for God's children to be revealed. Creation isn't separate from spiritual reality. It's connected. When humanity falls, nature falls with it. When judgment comes, the earth itself responds. The Jordan's dying fish aren't just victims of pollution. They're part of creation's groan. They're nature's way of crying out that something is fundamentally wrong with the world. The river that witnessed so many miracles is now witnessing the consequences of mankind's choices. This isn't random environmental decline. This is creation itself bearing witness to spiritual truth. When the fish die in the river where Jesus was baptized, the symbolism cuts deeper than science can explain. Nature is holding up a mirror, showing us what we've become. The reflection isn't pretty, but the warning is getting louder. Look at the bigger picture. Wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, famines and pestilences. Jesus laid out the signs that would mark the approach of the end times. He told his followers to watch, to be ready, to recognize the season. Dead fish in the Jordan River might seem small compared to global conflicts and natural disasters, but it's not small. It's precisely the kind of sign that speaks to those who have eyes to see. It's nature and prophecy converging in the exact place where God has demonstrated his power throughout history. The timing isn't coincidental. Israel back in the land, Jerusalem under Jewish control, the nations turning against Israel, ancient prophecies being fulfilled in our generation, and now the sacred river itself bearing signs of distress. These puzzle pieces don't exist in isolation. They're part of a larger picture that's becoming clearer every day. The end times aren't some distant future event. They're unfolding in real time. And the Jordan River is trying to tell us something urgent. The Jordan River has been God's messenger for 4,000 years. It stopped for Moses. It parted for Elijah. It welcomed Jesus in baptism. Today, it's carrying dead fish to our generation. This isn't just environmental news. This is prophetic warning wrapped in current events. The river of miracles is speaking to anyone with spiritual ears to hear. Creation itself is groaning louder. The signs are multiplying faster. The patterns are becoming undeniable. Some will call this fear-mongering. Others will dismiss it as coincidence. But those who know biblical prophecy understand what they're seeing. The Jordan isn't just dying from human neglect. It's declaring that time is running short. The fish floating in sacred waters carry a message older than civilization itself. The question isn't whether you believe in prophecy. The question is whether you're ready for what comes next. Because the Jordan River has never been wrong.